In the previous lecture, you have learned about the physiological anatomy of the cerebellum and the connections of the cerebellum. Now in this lecture, I am going to give you information about the functions of the cerebellum and dysfunction of the cerebellum. So let us begin. Before understanding the functions of the cerebellum, understand the functional unit of the cerebellar cortex. Functional unit of the cerebellar cortex. Now the cerebellum has about 30 million nearly identical functional units. Now this functional unit, it contains various cells present in the cerebellar cortex that center on a single very large Purkinje cell and on a corresponding deep nuclear cell. Now various cells present in the cerebellar cortex, they are present in three layers: molecular cell layer, Purkinje cell layer and the granular cell layer. Molecular cell layer, it contains basket cells and the stellate cells. Purkinje cell layer, it contains Purkinje cell, and the granular cell layer, it contains granule cell and the Golgi cell. Now from the Purkinje cell layer, it transmits information to the deep cerebellar nuclei. Deep cerebellar nuclei, they are dentate nuclei, interposed nuclei, the fastigial nuclei, and they send output signal to the other part of the nervous system. So the functional unit, it contains various cells present in the cerebellar cortex that center on a Purkinje cell and the deep nuclear cell. Input impulse in the cerebellum, it arrives in the cerebellum from the efferents, which relays information to the cerebellar cortex and the deep cerebellar nuclei, and from the cerebellar cortex again it relays information to the deep cerebellar nuclei to the Purkinje cells, and the deep cerebellar nuclei, it forms efferents which carry information from the cerebellum. So the output from the functional unit of the cerebellum is through the cerebellar nuclei, which forms efferent or the output signals of the cerebellum. Now the cerebellar nuclei, it receives information from the efferent fibers and the Purkinje fibers. So cerebellar nuclei, it is constantly under excitatory and the inhibitory influences. Excitatory influence from the efferent fibers coming from the brain or periphery, and inhibitory influence from the Purkinje fiber, which is the output from the cerebellar cortex, and it sends information to the cerebellar nuclei, which forms ultimate efferent or the output from the cerebellum. Now in this figure we can see the functional unit of the cerebellum, which contains various cells present in the cerebellar cortex, which center on the single Purkinje cell and the deep cerebellar nuclei. Now the efferent fibers, it provides information to the cerebellar cortex and the deep cerebellar nuclei through the inferior olive, and these fibers are known as climbing fibers, and the mossy fibers, they synapse with the deep cerebellar nuclei and the granule cell. Now the climbing fibers, it first excite the deep cerebellar nuclei and it synapse with the Purkinje cell. So first it excites the deep cerebellar nuclei, which is followed by inhibitory output from the Purkinje cell. Now similarly in the mossy fiber, it excites the deep cerebellar nuclei and then it synapses with the granule cells, and then 500 to 1000 granule cells, it synapses with one Purkinje cell, and the Purkinje cell inhibit the deep cerebellar nuclei, which forms efferent or the output signal from the cerebellum. So it is interesting to note that first of all, the input signals, it excite the deep cerebellar nuclei, which sends excitatory output, which is followed by delayed inhibitory input from the Purkinje cell. So it inhibits or decreases output from the cerebellum. So initial excitatory signal, which is followed by delayed inhibitory signal, it forms ultimate output from the deep cerebellar nuclei. Deep cerebellar nuclei, it provides a balance between the excitation and inhibition in the motor movement. So in execution of the rapid motor movement, the initiating signal from the motor cortex, first it stimulates the deep cerebellar nuclei, which sends excitatory impulse, which greatly enhances the motor movement, and within few milliseconds, the delayed negative feedback signal from the Purkinje fiber, it inhibits the deep cerebellar nuclei, so it sends inhibitory signal. So in the starting of the movement, first it sends excitatory signal, which is followed by inhibitory signal, and this provides a balance between the excitation and inhibition during the motor performance. During the execution of the rapid muscular movement, initial excitatory signal from the deep cerebellar nuclei, it is followed by the inhibitory signal. Now, initial excitatory signal, it enhances the motor movement, which is followed by the inhibitory signal, it dampens movement. So the damping of the movement, it prevents overshooting of the movement from the intended mark. Otherwise, oscillation of the movement would occur. Now here we can see the hand and its movement towards the intended object. So during the initial phase, excitatory signal, it enhances the movement towards the intended mark, and which is followed by inhibitory signal, which dampens the progression of the movement. So the overshooting, it is prevented from the intended mark or the intended object. Otherwise, oscillation of the movement occur surrounding the intended mark. So the damping, it provides a smooth progression of the movement towards the intended point. Now one MCQ about this topic. All are true about the cerebellum except. Now option A, it has 3 layers, 4 nucleus and 5 cells. Option B, climbing fibers are efferent inputs. Option C, mossy fibers inhibit Purkinje cell. And option D, climbing fibers excite Purkinje cells. So the answer is mossy fiber inhibit Purkinje cell. So the climbing fiber and the mossy fiber both, they excite Purkinje cell, and Purkinje cell inhibit deep cerebellar nuclei. And the cerebellum, it contains 3 layers, and they are molecular cell layer, Purkinje cell layer and the granule cell layer. 4 nucleus, they are the dentate, emboliform nucleus, globose nucleus and the fastigial nucleus. And the 5 cells, they are basket cells, stellate cell, Purkinje cell, granule cell and the Golgi cell. Now I am going to give you information about the functions of the cerebellum. Depending on the functional division of the cerebellum, it is divided into 3 parts: vestibulocerebellum, spinocerebellum and the cerebrocerebellum or the neocerebellum. So now I am going to explain the function of the cerebellum depending on the functional division of the cerebellum. Now first of all, vestibulocerebellum. Vestibulocerebellum is the flocculonodular lobe of the cerebellum. It is the oldest part in the development of the cerebellum. Vestibulocerebellum, it receives efferents from the vestibular nuclei. From the vestibular nuclei, vestibulocerebellar pathway, they provide information in the flocculonodular lobe and the fastigial nuclei. From the fastigial nuclei, efferents arise, and fastigial reticular pathway, it provides information in the reticular substance of the pons and medulla, which modulates the activity of the vestibulospinal fibers and the reticulospinal fibers. The function of the vestibulocerebellum is the regulation of the tone, posture and the equilibrium. Vestibulocerebellum, it controls balance between the agonist and antagonist muscle contraction of spine, hips and the shoulder during the rapid changes in the body position. Spinocerebellar tract, they provide information from the periphery, the movement which is occurring inside the body, and the vestibular nuclei, it provides information towards which the movement is occurring. So the vestibulocerebellum, it calculates in advance from these rates and the direction of the different part in next few milliseconds. And information from the body periphery and the vestibular apparatus is a typical feedback control circuit to provide anticipatory correction of the posture for the regulation of the equilibrium. So during the rapid changes in the body movement, vestibular nuclei and from the peripheral input, it provides the information for the correction of the body posture, and in this manner vestibulocerebellum, it is helpful in the regulation of the equilibrium and the posture during the different movements. Spinocerebellum. Spinocerebellum, it includes vermis and the intermediate zone of the cerebellum, which includes anterior lobe and the portion of the posterior lobe. Spinocerebellum, it receives efferents through the olivocerebellar pathway, cuniocerebellar pathway, dorsal and ventral spinocerebellar pathway. All these pathway, they provide proprioceptive impulses from the periphery of the body, and it provides information about the actual movement that is occurring from the peripheral parts. Spinocerebellum also receives information from the motor cortex about the sequential motor plan or the intended motor activity. So the spinocerebellum, it receives information about the intended motor plan and the actual movement that is occurring in the body, and it compares the motor plan with the actual movement, and it sends corrective signals to the cerebral cortex through the thalamus and to the red nucleus. So the spinocerebellum, it is helpful in the smooth and coordinated movements of the distal limbs for acute purposeful pattern movements. So spinocerebellum, it receives information from the cortex and red nucleus about the intended motor plan or the sequential motor activity, and it receives information from the peripheral parts about the proprioceptive impulses, and they provide information about the actual movements and the efference copy that is arrived at the anterior horn of the spinal cord. So spinocerebellum, it compares the motor plan with the actual movements, and if there is any abnormality, then it sends corrected output to the thalamus and red nucleus, and from thalamus it sends output to the cerebral cortex for the smooth and coordinated movements of the distal limbs. Cerebellum prevents overshoot of the movements. So cerebellum, it prevents overshoot by the damping mechanism. Now almost all the movements in the body, they are pendular. So whenever a limb is moved, first of all there is momentum develops, and the momentum, it must be overcome before the movement can be stopped. Now the pendular movement have a tendency to overshoot if not stopped. So in patient with the cerebellar damage, overshoot occurs in the intended movement, which is corrected by the cerebral cortex by initiating movement in the reverse direction. So the arm oscillates back and forth past the intended point, and this is known as intention tremor or the action tremor. Here we can see the resting position of the limb, from which limb moves towards the intended position. So initially there is increase in the momentum towards the intended position, and when the limb reaches up to the intended position, momentum decreases and then momentum stops. This occurs because of the initial excitation followed by the inhibitory drive from the deep cerebellar nuclei, which provides damping mechanism by which the limb achieves the intended mark with the smooth progression towards the intended position. But in the patient with the cerebellar damage, damping mechanism is absent, which results in the overshoot of the movement above the intended mark, and it is recognized by the cerebral cortex, and it consciously corrects the overshoot, and it initiates movement towards the reverse position to reach up to the intended mark, which results in the overcorrection. So first there is overshoot occurs, which is followed by the overcorrection. So the arm, it moves around the intended mark, and this type of the movement, it is known as intention tremor or the action tremor. So in the intention tremor or the action tremor, overshoot, it is followed by the overcorrection. So movement occurs around the intended point. Here in this patient with the cerebellar damage, we can see the intention tremor. Look at the movement of his finger, and when he moves his finger towards his nose, it shows the intention tremors. So in the finger nose test, when he moves his finger towards the nose, the finger moves around the nose and then it settles on the nose. So this is the action tremor occurs in the patient with the cerebellar damage. Cerebellum controls ballistic movements. So during the most rapid movements in the body, the typical feedback from the periphery is not possible. Most rapid movements like typing. So in this type of the movement, the typical feedback from the periphery is not possible during the movement. So this type of the rapid movements, they are known as ballistic movement. So in this type of the movement, they are pre-planned and they set into motion to go for a specific distance and then stop. Another important example of the ballistic movement is the saccadic movement of the eyes. in which eyes jump from one position to the next when reading. In the patient with the cerebellar damage, ballistic movement becomes abnormal. Cerebrocerebellum, it includes lateral zone of the cerebellar hemisphere. So from the cortex, primary, premotor area and the somatosensory area, it sends information from the cortico-pontocerebellar pathway to the lateral zone of the cerebellar hemisphere, to the cerebrocerebellum and to the dentate nuclei. From the dentate nuclei, efferent arise, which sends information to the red nuclei, to the thalamus, to the basal ganglia and to the cortex, which includes premotor area, primary motor area and the somatosensory association areas. So in this manner, cerebrocerebellum, it communicates with the premotor area and the primary motor area. So the function of the cerebrocerebellum is planning and programming of rapid sequential movements and the timing of the sequential movements. So the function of the cerebrocerebellum is planning and programming of the sequential movements. Now the plan of the sequential movement actually begins in the sensory and the premotor area of the cerebral cortex, and from there plan is transmitted to the lateral zone of the cerebellar hemisphere or the cerebrocerebellum. Now many neurons in the cerebellar dentate nuclei, they display the activity pattern of the sequential movement that is yet to come while the present movement is still occurring. So the lateral cerebellar hemisphere appear to be involved not with what movement is happening at a given moment, but what will be happening during the next sequential movement. So the function of the cerebrocerebellum is planning and programming of the sequential movement, and it performs this function along with the primary motor area, premotor area and the somatosensory association areas. Along with the planning and programming of the sequential movement, cerebrocerebellum also times the sequential movement. So once the initial movement is over, the next sequential movement begins. Now this next sequential movement begins not too early or not too late. So the timing function of the cerebrocerebellum, it provides proper coordination of the sequential movements. In the patient with the damage to the neocerebellum or the cerebrocerebellum, incoordination of the sequential movement, it is commonly observed. Cerebrocerebellum is also helpful in the extramotor predictive function. So when the person is moving towards the object by change in the visual scene or by change in the auditory information, the person can predict how rapidly he or she is approaching towards the object. Now it can be predicted by the brain, but it requires active participation of the cerebellum. So cerebellum, it times event other than the body. So by change in the visual scene or by change in the auditory information, cerebrocerebellum can time events, and it provides information how rapidly the person is approaching towards the object. In the person with a cerebellar damage, extramotor predictive function is lost, so person cannot predict how rapidly he or she is approaching the object by the change in the visual scene or by change in the auditory information. Now few MCQs for the revision as well as assessment of your knowledge. Which of the following clearly states the role of the cerebellum in the motor performance? Cognition, it converts abstract thought into voluntary action. Initiating a skilled voluntary movement. Smoothens and coordinates ongoing movements. And the answer is, it smoothens and coordinates ongoing movements. True about the spinocerebellar tract. Option A, equilibrium. Option B, smoothens and coordinates movement. Learning induced by change in the vestibulo-ocular reflex, and planning and programming. So the function of the spinocerebellar tract is it smooth and coordinates movement. So in the last session you have learned about the functions of the cerebellum. Function of the vestibulocerebellum is regulation of the tone, posture and equilibrium. Function of the spinocerebellum is coordination of the muscle movements, and the function of the neocerebellum is the planning, programming and timing of the sequential motor activities. So when cerebellum is damaged, it results in loss of this function and various clinical abnormalities of the cerebellum. Dysmetria and the ataxia. In the absence of the cerebellum, the subconscious motor control system cannot predict how far the movement will go. Therefore, the movements they ordinarily overshoot and then overcompensate in the opposite direction, and this is known as dysmetria, and it results in uncoordinated movements that are called ataxia. Here we can see the movement of the hand towards the intended point, but the damping of the movement, it does not occur at the intended point, so it results in the overshoot followed by the overcompensation, that is known as dysmetria. So here we can see the overshoot which is followed by the overcompensation, and this is known as dysmetria. Past pointing. Past pointing is a manifestation of the dysmetria. So in the dysmetria, overshooting followed by the overcompensation occurs around the intended mark. So the person with the cerebellar damage, when he performs any motor movement, the movement of the hand or the other part of the body, it considerably goes beyond the point of the intention, and that is known as past pointing. Past pointing occurs because of the absence of the damping mechanism. So normally the excitatory followed by the inhibitory drive from the deep cerebellar nuclei, it provides a damping mechanism that prevents overshooting of the normal motor movements. But in the person with the cerebellar damage, because of the absence of the damping mechanism, movement goes beyond the point of the intention and it produces past pointing. Intention tremor is also manifestation of the dysmetria. So because of the absence of the cerebellum, motor movements they overshoot, and overshooting is followed by the overcompensation. So all the motor movements they move around the intended point. First they overshoot followed by the overcompensation. So the movements they tend to oscillate around the intended mark and they vibrate back and forth several times before settling on the intended point, and this is known as intention tremor or the action tremor, and it occurs because of the failure of the damping of the motor movements. Function of the cerebrocerebellum is planning, programming and the timing of the rapid sequential motor activities. So when the cerebellum is damaged, it produces inability to perform rapid alternating movements, that is known as dysdiadochokinesia. So when the cerebellum is damaged, motor control system it fails to predict where the different parts of the body will be at a given time, and it loses perception of the parts during the rapid motor movements. As a result, the succeeding movements may begin either too much early or too much late, which results in the incoordination of the movement, and this is known as dysdiadochokinesia. Dysarthria is also a manifestation of the cerebellar damage. Dysarthria is failure of the progression in talking. So formation of the word, it depends on a rapid and orderly succession of the individual muscle movement in the larynx, mouth and the respiratory system. And in the person with the cerebellar damage, coordination of the muscle is lost. So lack of the coordination among the structure and inability to adjust in advance either the intensity of the sound or duration of each successive sound, it results in the dysarthria during the speech. Function of the vestibulocerebellum is regulation of the muscle tone, posture and equilibrium, and vestibulocerebellum it is also helpful for the fixation of the eyeball during the vision by the vestibulo-ocular reflex. So whenever cerebellum is damaged, it produces cerebellar nystagmus. Cerebellar nystagmus, these are the tremor of the eyeballs. So when the person with the cerebellar damage, he try to fixate his eyeball to the visual scene on the one side of the head, it results in the tremor like movement of the eyeballs rather than a steady fixation on the object. So this is known as cerebellar nystagmus, and it occurs whenever flocculonodular lobe of the cerebellum they are damaged. So cerebellar nystagmus, they are commonly associated with the loss of the equilibrium. In person with the cerebellar damage, hypotonia is also observed. Hypotonia is the decreased tone of the musculature. Now the hypotonia results from loss of the cerebellar facilitation of the motor cortex and the brainstem motor nuclei by the tonic signals from the deep cerebellar nuclei. So in the person with the cerebellar damage, hypotonia is also present. Now one MCQ about cerebellar dysfunctions. Now the question is, lesion of the lateral cerebellum causes all of the following except option A, incoordination, intention tremor, resting tremor, and the hypotonia? So the answer is resting tremor. So in the patient with the cerebellar lesion, intention tremor or the action tremor occurs, and the resting tremor, it occurs in the patient with the lesion to the basal ganglia.